G'day, this week's weekly roundup comes from New Zealand. A lot has happened while I was away on holidays over the last 2 weeks, so I've split up my regular roundup into two to avoid people wandering off and doing something else, which happens often. This video contains Tindy, Adafruit, Seed, SparkFun and a bunch of China shop fronts. Tindy has been fairly busy while I've been away on holidays. This board is a neat idea. It's a baseboard that allows you to connect an ESP8266 and 4.3-inch e-ink display, useful if you want to have door signs that can be updated programmatically. And I just had to add this one in, as I'm a drummer. It's an Arduino Nano Shield that drives 5V RGB LED strips and onboard piezo, so you can activate the LEDs in sync with your drums. Nice addition to an acoustic kit. This is a fairly cheap ESP8266 PCB with onboard RFM95 LoRa module and LiPo battery management. You'll still have to buy your own LoRa module and ESP8266, but a cheap option if you want a DIY LoRa to Wi-Fi gateway. There seems to be a few of these test PCBs on Tindy. This small board is an 8-channel voltage logger with sampling rates from 500 nanoseconds to 5 seconds. Runs off a 5 to 20 volt DC supply with input channel voltage from 0 to 3.3 volts only. One of the problems with a lot of the LoRa modules is the fact that they have a 2mm pad pitch. For prototyping, you'll need an adapter board, or you can get one of these modules that have been soldered up for you. Do you need to add wireless to your Teensy project? This board will accept any of the Teensy versions below 3.2 and provide Wi-Fi, Bluetooth and nRF24L01 connectivity. It also has 5V and 3.3V regulators on board and can be powered from 6.5 to 16 volts DC. Another hat for your Pi Zero, although it can be used on any Pi. This one allows you to solder up a LoRa module and OLED display. The only thing missing is LiPo battery management, which would have extended the number of applications. And yet another LoRa hat for the Pi. This one runs the RN2903 LoRa module. And yes, yet another LoRa PCB. This one contains an STM32 MCU as well as an SX1276 LoRa module. Power can be supplied from either USB or LiPo. If you saw my MicMake mail number 8, you would have seen the reflower. LaFrasse now has a Tindy shop open where you can buy his excellent reflower. The AMG 8833 Grid Eye is a fairly new product that provides a small 8x8 pixel thermal camera. You can fetch the thermal image at up to 10 Hz with a 60-degree field of view with very simple code. I'm sure Adafruit have had this for a while, but anyway, this is the Feather 32U4, which contains, of course, the 8MEGA 32U4, LiPo battery management and an nRF51822 Bluetooth module. These Feather modules have been a great idea from Adafruit. They give you a common set of features and pinouts, but have a whole lot of different MCUs and wireless options. Over at SparkFun, they're really getting into these quick modules, like a 64x48 OLED display, a UV and ambient light sensor, an I2C bus mux for when you have a lot of I2C devices, or devices with clashing addresses, and a human presence sensor based on the AK9750 chip. The Arduino TN is a board that contains a Cortex M0 Plus SAMD21 MCU, Wi-Fi module and Qualcomm AR9342 MIPS processor with 4GB eMMC and 64 MB DDR2 RAM. This is the type of board you'd use in an IoT gateway, and it has Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, Ethernet and capable of running OpenWRT. If you want some cheap GPS modules, then SparkFun have a huge stock of them on sale at the moment. I actually picked up a handful of these for a project I have in mind. Only 11 bucks, cheap as chips. Over in China, Elecro has a small LiPo battery charger that can charge using solar or USB inputs. While Banggood have a colour recognition sensor using the TCS230 sensor, it will detect non-luminous colour up to 1 cm away and runs off a 3 to 5 volt supply. And this laser dust sensor seems to have a slightly faster acquisition time than the previous model I bought. It's still a little slow at 1 second response time, but can measure down to 0.3 micron particle size. Wow! Over at DX, they have a copy of the Sonoff devices, which have exactly the same specs, but for some reason is a little bit more expensive. So someone hasn't been doing their research at DX. And I found that they are also selling the NanoPi Neo 2 for around the same price as you can get it elsewhere. This is the H5 model, not the H3 model. And this fairly cheap MotorShield module claims to be able to drive a single 16 volt motor at up to 30 amps. I'm not really sure about that. I would expect the magic smoke genie to appear all of a sudden.
I am the magic smoke genie.
Oh, go away.
Oh.
This is the end of part 2 of this week's roundup. Part 1 contains all the crowdfunding maker products, so head on over there if you missed it. Anyway, thanks for watching and see you next week.
It's always interesting seeing rocks that float.